Hey guys, how's it going? Anthony Muthuraja here with a new video lesson series. Um, Quite excited to talk about this one actually. Um, I want to talk about the Jaco essence of groove, and I just can't begin to describe how it felt when I first heard Jaco. Thanks to my buddy Alif Hamdan for introducing me to Jaco. I first heard Jaco like almost 7 years ago. That was when I started playing the bass actually. Um, so the first thing that hit me about Jaco was just his groove, just the groove and how it was so explosive. So I figured I'd do a lesson on that, and this is going to be a long lesson, surprisingly for many, I guess. Um, but this is part one, and for part one, I'm going to break down two elements in his approach to playing grooves that I found very helpful. And yeah, so let's get on with it. So, as we all know, Jaco had the classic bridge pickup sound on the jazz bass. My amp is off. Wow. But yeah, he had that bridge pickup sound, and he always played by the back at the bridge. The bridge pickup, which gave him his signature sound. A lot of punch, clarity, and just kick-ass grooves came out of that. So I want to take the groove from the chicken. For those of you who don't know the chicken, the groove, this is the chicken groove. Right? So, there's a whole bunch of things that makes Jaco Jaco, but for the sake of simplifying the content of the lessons into smaller chunks of videos, I don't want to just blow it all up in one video. So now I'm assuming most of you can play very fundamental grooves, or even certain advanced kind of grooves with syncopations and all that stuff, which is a heavy part of Jaco's playing. So I'm just going to get on straight into certain aspects of his playing. Now, first things first, the guy was originally a drummer, and I think that drummer in him was very prevalent in his bass playing. Just the way he played, like he could play alone, like a lot of his looper solos and all that. Like you don't need a drummer. Like he didn't need a drummer, honestly. He could just play by himself and just have people dancing for like hours. That's just a serious capability the guy had. That's one. And then the influence of Afro-Cuban music, seeing that he's from Florida, and that time, this is what, late 60s and the 70s when he was coming up, the popularity of the Afro-Cuban music was quite high. So that influence definitely is there in his playing too. Very percussive, percussion-oriented 16th note, So let's take a look at this groove. Now I'm going to play the same groove with what I call zero life. And zero life meaning just no life. That's actually more difficult than playing the Jaco groove. So there's a lot of things missing. No ghost notes, there's no sense of articulation, there's no dynamics. But the note, the pitch, and the rhythm is right. So that goes to show that, harmony, melody, and rhythm alone doesn't give you good music. You need all the other elements to it, like the dynamics, the pocket, the feeling of it, and just a whole lot of elements. So now, first things first, let's learn to play that groove without the ghost notes or anything, like what I just showed earlier. Okay, now we're going to throw in ghost notes. So if I sing the drum groove, so you feel that emphasis of that dance feel, which is usually the upbeats, you know. So now that's with ghost notes. I might play different ghost notes here and there because I'm not very conscious of it now. But now ghost notes change the feeling of it. And you would also start to notice that once you add the ghost notes, dynamics start to come in by default, because you cannot have your ghost notes and your regular notes sounding the same. A ghost note is a ghost note, you know, it doesn't exist, but it's there. But that doesn't mean I believe in ghosts. But so ghost note is one. Heavy part of his playing. It's there everywhere, even in his solos. That's what makes his solos difficult to play for me. Just the amount of ghost notes involved and how he placed it. So that's one. And the next thing is articulation. And now, articulation simply means how you play a note. But, you know, generally guitar players have this mentality, legato, alternate picking, and that is their understanding of articulation. But articulation involves a lot of things more than that. You know, your left hand technique, whether you choose to slide into a note, slide down a note, hammer on, pull off, slurs, trills, your right hand, you know, do you choose to play with your fingertip or with more of the flesh? And all these things affect how your notes come out. So what I want to just talk about for the first part, which is this part, is the right hand. So we are not going to go too far with the articulation aspect for this lesson. So one simple thing to be mindful of. Now he played a lot at the bridge, and he used more of his flesh rather than just a fingertip. So you get a rounder sound with the punch. Again, that's with more of the flesh. Just fingertips. So there's a difference. So I'm going to play the same groove with more fingertips and then with more of the flesh. Hopefully you hear the difference. More flesh. Right, so very simple idea, which leads to a whole array of options for sounds. So that's playing by the bridge. And then he also had this, I call it a little trick, that he would play the same thing, but he would just move to the neck pickup, which gives a rounder sound, and he would just move there. Like he would just come down to the neck pickup for like a bar or half a bar, and then he'll just move back up. And he had these cheeky elements in his playing everywhere, you know. His solos, teen down. Like for instance, he plays that on the neck pickup and then back to the bridge. You know, those kind of things. Articulation, just very subtle, but the effect is very strong. So I just want to leave you with that for this part. So just to recap, I spoke about ghost notes and how the ghost notes bring in dynamics and a sense of pocket. And then articulation with just the right hand, where you use more of the flesh or more fingertip or whatever your choice is. And then where you play on the the right hand side of the bass. So with that, I'll leave you guys at the shed, and I'll see you pretty soon with part 2. Cheers.